Today is still February 2nd, 2024. I got home from doing the last tape of where I called up to the courthouse and talked to the prosecutor's office and about a lot of things that happened and how I started crying. And that's I also in the last tape where I told you when Will got done bullying me and making fun of me, when he listed me an informant, he said that if I ever had a problem, I could call the chief of police of Canton, that they were best friends or really good friends, and I could trust him. Well, and that's where I figured that Officer Mark and Officer John come from, because Will was stationed in Canton, and with him, of course, he'd be friends with the chief of police because he would know him. Well, I got home and I'm carrying my stuff in, and people are getting in their vehicles in the next parking lot over. And they said it is what's going on. That guy was friends with that chief of police, and that's why the police didn't help her, because that guy was friends with that chief of police. And so the police let all this happen to her. It is what is going on. It's because that guy that let all this happen, he was friends with the chief of police. So the police let all this happen. And they were outside screaming. I got on my car and you could hear it off in the distance. Another parking lot. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, it probably is. But you know what? Just because somebody's friends with somebody, you don't let somebody get killed. You don't let them get raped. You don't let them get hurt. And you don't let the other person steal because you're friends. My one friend used to work at the Stark County Prosecutor's Office. He said two Canton officers were supposed to be protecting this one person, and they were letting them get hurt. And they got told, you either resign now or you'll be arrested. And they resigned. And that's where he said that they're actually, it's happened there. And that he's the one that I don't talk to anymore, because he was bad mouthing the police. And he was bad mouthing them really, really bad. And I won't have it in my presence. And because there may be a few corrupt officers, but there's good men that put the badge on every day, and they get dressed and they go in the tent of protecting society. And they risk their lives every day for people they don't know or owe anything to. And they take their oath seriously. And it's not for them to rip up government accounts. It's not for them to steal victims or take payouts. It's actually to defend the law and the victims and the innocent, and to protect everyone. And they take that oath seriously. And it's true to their hearts. See, that's where they're the ones that are a few bad apples, they make everyone that gets out there and risks their lives every day, they make them all look like criminals. They make them, for a million good officers risking their life every day, one or two bad. Do you know what people remember? And they talk about for years? The one or two bad. And they never forget it. Because those were supposed to be the ones guarding and protecting everyone. And they became the criminals. And it devastated people's minds and hearts to the point That's all they remember. Because when they're entrusted to protect us, and they use it to become hardened criminals, people don't forget. And they disgrace everybody else. But I don't know. I don't know about a lot of things. You know, I went out to eat tonight. I had a nice dinner. And it was actually nice. We sat and talked about a lot of things. And people left me alone. I've seen some of them drive by. And we talked about the case, of course. And I know my phone's tapped. And I told you, people are selling this shit. Well, they're live streaming. The Mexican drug cartel has hacked into Protect a Casa case and are selling them. And it was on Google, where they sold mine. Okay? Some people showed up at Walmart 62 today. It's February 2nd, 2024. They showed up at Walmart 62 and they said the ones that were listening to her today found out that the police are badgering people in this area with everything that happened here. They're telling people not to believe people. Nobody better say a word because we all know what happened here. And them to ever say that, and they better be fixing this. And they were complaining inside Walmart. You know, they tape an audio in there. And people were complaining. Nobody better say a word. With everything that happened here, how could they say, you know, and we heard they're actually doing it and da-da-da-da-da. See, up in Akron, they were talking, one of the guys that sold the login wanted to expose corruption here. And they wanted it to become public knowledge. Okay? And they were talking about it up in Akron. Like this last week. Last week or two, one of the guys that sold it wanted to expose the corruption here. And make it public. Boy, did he make it public. I'll tell you what, though. It was really, really nice. I actually sat, I laughed, I joked. We talked about the prostitute and the two pimps running the scam on me. And one's got photoshopping and washing and roofie confessions. The other one's pretending to be a doctor selling information. I said, who on earth would fall for that? And I said, what a stupid scam. He's like, he said I said, and that agent acted like he was going along with it, like he fell for it. And I told him how they mocked FBI agent John in Walmart 62 on June 7th and how Eric made fun at June 7th, 23, and then November 18th, 22, Walmart 62, Eric, one of the drug dealers, made fun of everyone with this scam and confessed everything was him, not me, and da-da-da. I said, there's a lot more. And I said, but they really made fun of everybody then. And I said, but who would actually fall for a man trying to kill his wife, brings a prostitute stripper and her two pimps and with her, and one's got stalking, peeking Tom tapes with photoshopping and washing. And I explained to him that I thought the well water was making me so sick it's the only thing I could think of. Washing it, I thought it was so toxic, it was literally making me that sick. I didn't think of a sexual predator drug being raping me, even though I had all the signs and it's verified by the doctor. And them drugging me up so bad I didn't realize what was happening. I'm drugged up and told to say weirdo, flasher stuff, and all kinds of crazy crap. And I never talked to anybody. And I said photoshopping and washing in the other room. He I said, who would fall for that? And it was done by a stripper and her two pimps. He said, I don't know. He said, you know what? These agents have a way about themselves. that they'll act like they're falling for stuff and they'll go after people. And it's all an act. And I showed him different people, and I was going back through my messages, and I was showing him all the different months where people were taken and where they did the big arrest, and where I met with my one friend that had a friend in the police department. I told him what day, and I showed him the giant bust. He's like, wow. And I said, I can start going through more. I said, my ex was messed up in that. And da 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 da. He's like, you hear of it, but to actually you sit down, you look at it, and you knew it was here, but on what levels? See, we were even talking about where they brought the FBI file up to the Ravenna courthouse and gave it to the lady officers outside the prosecutor's office. And it said, that where that guy showed up later in Alliance, like the last week, he was talking, and we know she don't know who we are around her. We had that file dropped off there that no one's to discuss the ongoing case with her. Well, everything I have is bugged, and they know they sold it. Okay? And, but if she needs something, they got our information to get a hold of us. But it doesn't say not to believe me, not to help me. It says just don't talk to me about the ongoing case. But if I need something, how to get a hold of them. See how much they've twisted everything? Because like the Tuscarora sheriff said, you can never tell anybody not to believe somebody, not to help them. You lose your badge, you go to jail. It's badgering. It's obstruction, justice, tampering with evidence, and tampering with witnesses. The police can never badmouth you. That's where my one neighbor was saying a Louisville police officer was badmouthing me. And I called up there. And I went through everything. They're going, wow, wow, wow. You know what? Your neighbor was just being mean and gossiping bad about the police and bad mouthing the police. No, there'd be a real problem if a Louisville officer actually insulted someone and told people not to believe him, not to help him. That officer would be in a lot of trouble. They're not allowed to say anything like that, and they would never say that. And there would be a lot of trouble if he did. She's like, you got your case, you got your facts, you got your witnesses, you got your evidence. You stand on that, and nobody can dispute any of that. And no, and plus, no officer is ever going to tell anybody not to believe somebody and then say anything bad about them. Your neighbor was just gossiping and being mean to you and gossiping mean about the police. I said something to him. And, I know that lady's stalking our apartment building at night. They don't care enough to come down and find out what on earth she's doing. I already told them to leave it alone. When something bad happens, you just look at them and say, well, we tried to warn you. There's nothing you can do if they don't want to drive through and find out why somebody keeps pulling in and flashing lights and stuff like that. She started when my ex disappeared. But I showed the video to a CIA agent, and she said it's some kind of drug signal. It could even be a drug signal for another apartment building. It could be anything. She said, but that is a signal to someone. And she's an agent, a retired agent, because of health issues. She said, but I don't know, people. But I don't know why. Once you already let them know, they don't do anything. That's their fault. And that holds them responsible if something happens. But I'll tell you what, because like where I dated a cop, they're not allowed to have an opinion. You bring them evidence or you tell them what's going on, they have to go out and find out. They're not allowed to badmouth you. They're not allowed to insult you. They're not allowed to do anything like that. It's badgering. It's obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence and witnesses. And then it would be like these people, like the police officers telling my house manager, Melissa, that her niece wasn't taken, that she just ran off and killed herself. And where Lori's family was taken and murdered by these people, that she killed herself. That where all these thousands of children were taken, that they ran away from home and killed themselves. That these people that were being held and raped, they were just meeting up and having casual sex with strangers. And when you take the humanity away from victims that are being harmed, and the real hurt and the real pain that is gone with the humanity was taken from these people and their family members, and the real grief and the real hurt, and you mock it and you turn it around on people that are hurting and grieving, it shows how filthy, sick, and demonic these people are. And the day that an officer does it, I'll tell you what, I had told the Ohio Attorney General's office what happened here. And the last time I got an email from them, they apologized to me. For one thing, we're going to start off, I'm so sorry you're still dealing with the situation. And I'm so sorry it's still going on there. And you're still having to deal with this. See what I mean? See, there's a real case. Real police officers work it. Real victims were taken and killed. And I was almost murdered. I was raped and tortured and publicly humiliated and human trafficked. And other people were taken and either raped or killed. And to demean any of the victims of these monsters shows how vile and evil you are. And every time I see a human trafficker, I see anybody that has any knowledge of any of these people, I tell the police, these people sold the login. A cop's listening to me every day anyways. And they're taping everything for the case. Just like they had Eric's confession November 18, 22, Walmart 62, how he fooled everybody, and then them mocking FBI agent John June 7th, 23. Just like in the beginning of the case where they said it was nothing but a bet between two drug lords, and two gentlemen, that they were drug lords and they were using me as a pawn in their bets, and they were fighting over this area. They said that in 18. They told everybody, they made everything up on me, they photoshopped everything and drugged everything in 18 and 19. And then repeatedly confessed and mocked everybody, and I can go through a giant list. And everybody knows I'm framed in stocking tapes by a prostitute and two pimps. One's got stocking tapes of photoshopping of washing, I heard, and where I was bruised and infected. They had been drugging me, beating me, and raping me, and drugging me up and telling me to say stuff with roofies so I'd be sleepwalking. The guy I had dinner with tonight, his wife and him were at a bar. He had, they both went to the bathroom, came back, and she sat down and took a drink, and within a few minutes, she's like, I don't feel good. He's like, well, let me get you home. And she didn't remember 2 days when it wore off. She didn't, and she'd been up talking to him, and they just stayed at home, but she didn't remember 2 days. When it wore off, she didn't remember 2 days. My neighbor got roofied, lost a whole night. My other coworker got roofied, was out for hours, and I would lose 4 to 6 hours easily. And I thought it was the well water making me sick, washing in it, that it was that toxic. I didn't know, and if these people wouldn't have said a word, I would have never known anything. But the water was so dirty coming out of the spigot, it looked like poop water. Even with the water treatment system, it looked like milk. It burns your skin if you had a cut. I thought washing in it was making me throw up, making my personal area infected, making me dizzy, and making me feel like I was going to pass out. And I almost wondered if it wasn't giving me cancer because I had bruises on me. And I thought the well water was killing me up there. If they wouldn't have said a word, I never thought of a sexual predator drug being raping me and dragging me up and telling me to say stuff. I never talked to anybody. There's nothing funny about two pimps doing this with a prostitute. It really isn't. And violating people in their home. And some pimp impersonating a doctor selling information. This is like the stupidest scam on earth. I'm going to upload this.